When I think about the great threats that we face, I think of Russia and I think of China. And to try to distinguish between the two, I think of cyanide and I think of arsenic, right? You don't exactly want to cozy up to either of these. But the party line for the last many years is that the greatest geopolitical threat to the West is Russia. Now I'm beginning to wonder. I'm beginning to think, is it China instead? During the Cold War, we played China off against Russia to defeat the Soviet Union in the Cold War. Are we looking at a possible inversion of that? Is there a case to be made that perhaps we should worry less about Russia and really focus on China as the number one geopolitical adversary?
I think we still need to be very focused on Russia, and the Russian threat is very real.
Yeah.
On the eastern flank of Europe, and the Russians are very aggressive. But without a doubt, and we have to view China as just as deadly an adversary for the United States and for the free world. And so both Russia and China pose significant immediate and long-term threats to the West. China arguably could even eclipse Russia.
Yeah.
Eventually, in terms of a military threat to the United States. So we have to be, really fighting our adversaries on several fronts, and that includes Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. But without a doubt, I think, China has ambitions to be the world's leading superpower, and we have to ensure that does not happen. And we have to treat China, I think, in the same way that we treat Russia, basically as an adversary.
I want to focus on maybe a silver lining in some of this. I remember that you were a leading voice in the Brexit debate, and it's funny to think about it now, but the Brexit vote happened 4 years ago, and it took so long. It took another 3-4 years just to even get the thing through. Now that we're seeing quarantines, isolation, a locking down of national borders, is this, in a way, a sort of vindication of some of the issues that were brought up during Brexit?
Yeah, it's interesting that, of course, one of the big issues involved in the Brexit debate was border control.
Yeah.
The right of the British people to decide who comes into the country, the right of the British people to control their own borders. And that was one of the biggest factors in the Brexit vote. And I think that now across Europe, most European countries are following the British lead, which is reimposing border controls. And I think that what you are seeing today in Europe is an end to this outdated open borders approach.
Yeah.
You now have every European government reimposing border controls, and I think the coronavirus has actually fundamentally changed the trajectory of the future of Europe. I mean, just as Brexit has also changed that trajectory, the pandemic has also had a very big impact actually on Europe, in the sense that you're now seeing, I think, an end to the old sort of open borders mindset. And of course, the British people were way ahead of the rest of Europe in this. And at the end of the day, you've got to be able to control your own borders. And it's significant that with regard to the coronavirus pandemic, it is nation states in Europe that are leading the response. It's not the European Union.
Right.
The EU basically is completely irrelevant, actually, to addressing the pandemic, but it's now nation states that are responding and taking the measures that are necessary. As
it properly should be. My favorite kind of European Union is the irrelevant kind. I think you saw that vindication in Brexit. Yeah. I think, unfortunately, Italy has learned that lesson recently. And so I suppose there is a little bit of a silver lining here that some political realities are coming out of this difficult international crisis. Thank you so much, Nile, for coming on. Nile Gardiner, the director of the Heritage Foundation's Margaret Thatcher Center for Freedom.